Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Between Two Hats with Patrick Osman and Philip Burton. Blessed by our amazing guest today with over 30 years in the mortgage industry and more than 20 billion in transactions under her belt, the founder and former CEO of CoreVest has held leadership roles at Auction.com, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs. She's been named a woman of influence multiple times and brings unmatched expertise in real estate and finance. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the one, the only, Beth O'Brien. Welcome to the show, Beth O'Brien.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to have a good conversation with you guys. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now you see why I love him so much. That intro makes, you have an impeccable resume, but even if it was just, hey, here's this guy and here's this girl, it's like, I feel wonderful the way he said it. So
I know. I just feel so excited now.
Wild. It's totally wild. I love it.
But the thing is, like, my enthusiasm, my tone of voice is one thing, but the words backed by that tone of voice enthusiasm is your fault, Beth. You're the one with that experience. You're the one with that resume, and you're the one that's here on the show for that reason. So we'd like to officially welcome you. We're excited to have you. We're excited to learn from you.
The problem is you guys think it's all really linear and that somehow I set out to do all these things when it was really just this non-linear walk that now all of a sudden looks good together.
Right.
But that's okay.
You didn't have that written down as a kid.
Lucky and good, right?
That wasn't on your goal sheet as a 5-year-old. I want to accomplish.
So, it's so funny that you say that, Gulf. I tell people all the time, there is no Halloween costume for a 6-year-old girl who wants to run a mortgage company. That doesn't exist. What's wrong with these people? They're not selling that costume.
Yeah, Disney's not making that movie, are they?
No one would go.
That's
and
so
yet I think
funny.
it's kind of fun. Isn't that weird?
I think we could.
Maybe I need a hobby.
The money lady. We'll just call you the money lady. And here we go. Let's figure it out.
We could just play that Pink Floyd song every time I walk in the room.
Now you're talking. See, now you're giving. This is what I love.
I'm giving you some ideas, guys. Don't
our post-production team will layer that in afterwards, and that will be playing as you're saying that. This is exciting stuff. Podcast magic happening.
Yeah, Anna, shout out to Anna. She's the one who edits all of our podcasts, and she's going to be the one squeezing some Pink Floyd music in there if we don't get in trouble for copyright. So we'll have to check in on that. But,
I'm in Vegas.
There's a bunch of great money songs. I'm
in Vegas right now. I'll hire a street performer to play their version of the song "Money." That way, we own it.
There we go. We don't have to pay the
love it
royalties,
whatever.
So what's interesting here is 2 out of the 3 of us have worked on Wall Street. Is that correct?
I guess so. I don't know about you guys. I assume one of you.
Phil.
Not directly on the trading floor, but in that world. My previous life before I got into flooring was in finance, Merrill Lynch, doing the stock trading, options trader type of program. So I did that for 3+ years, I think, somewhere in that area. So yeah, I'm certainly not on your level, Beth, but it was a very eye-opening and fun experience for me.
He tried to get there, and then he realized.
I kind of like flooring myself. It's tangible.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I love you. And here's why. That's exactly the reason that I gave and why I made the change. And this is just my experience. Stop me if you don't agree. But in finance at that time when I was working for Merrill Lynch, and I was working before I got my license, I was working under a guy that was a top producer for Merrill Lynch. And this is not a knock on Merrill Lynch. I think it's more the person, but a lot of times we're pushing trades that we're saying one thing and perhaps maybe folks in the office in their own accounts are doing something different. And it was very hard for me to square that with, are we really doing right by our customers? Is this really the right thing? Because we're just pushing stock products and things that we're trying to move out of our inventory. And it didn't make sense for me. And so getting into flooring was tangible. I could touch it. I used to say to people, if I sell you this today, I know that tomorrow it's the same flooring. It's going to be the same thing tomorrow. It's not going to be half of what I sold you, or it's going to be bankrupt of what I sold you. So that's the reasoning for my change.
Well, that does make some sense. I mean, luckily, I think most of my background, I was actually the principal in those places. And so we were either investing the firm's capital on our own behalf, coming up with our own ideas. And so I think I didn't have that tension that you're talking about, but I could certainly understand it. And it's actually one of the reasons I like what I do now, even though certainly I got a lot of satisfaction about in other jobs like that. But I just like starting something and growing it. I didn't even fully realize how much I like the growth piece,
Right.
the building piece of,
Yeah.
it's not all that exciting to make every single decision because 90% of your decisions are a little bit more mundane, like what font to use,
Sure. They're
do
not
we
sexy,
really
right?
want this color, people come to me, do we want white paper or ecru paper? Luckily, there's almost no paper anymore. But like but actually making the decisions and living with them and being the operator turned out to be so much more satisfying to me than I was expecting. Right? Not that transactions aren't fun. I'm transactionally driven and the mortgage industry is transactionally driven. But it's the other piece, the building piece that really excites me.
Have you always had that sort of entrepreneurial creator type
So
spirit?
in retrospect, maybe or probably, but I don't think people understand what an entrepreneur is until they are one. I'm not sure. I think a lot of us can say that that's a sexy word or sure sounds like it
It
might be
sounds
fun.
great.
It doesn't it sound awesome? And yet I think most people aren't really cut out for it because they actually
Do you
like
think
having
you're
some
born with it?
structure. They like having someone lay out
Okay.
something. They're people in general, really strong employees tend to be more farmers than
Right.
like a really good farmer. And I'm not denigrating that by any means. I need every one of them. But it's not the kind of stress most people want. An entrepreneurial piece is not all that easy.
How did you find the gap between leaving, one of the big financial firms like Citi or Goldman and then launching yourself?
You
Did you
mean being
find
deinstitutionalized? It
Yeah,
kind of sounds
yeah.
like breaking out,
No,
doesn't
but
it?
that's the word. You literally
It
became
is the right word. In
It's the
fact, when
corporate
I first
lobotomy. You
left,
got the
yes, when I
corporate
Yeah.
first
lobotomy.
left
How did you
Citi,
find there was a gap where you woke up at 7:30 and you didn't go to that
well,
one job? You now had to create your job. You
I
created
think a
everything from
couple
scratch. So
times
what
in
did
my
that look
career,
like?
I've realized if you look around you and you look at the senior people or you look at whatever is in front of you and you realize, wow, that's not actually what I want to be. I like it. I respect it. I'm working hard. But like, I didn't want to necessarily be a partner at Goldman Sachs. I wanted to be a partner of Goldman Sachs. Like I watched the people they were financing and I watched what we were doing to help build others grow. And I'm thinking, wow, that's the side of the transaction that looked more exciting to me. Despite the fact that I was very happy funding those people, but it was their success. And look, the investment banks succeed with those entrepreneurs
Sure.
sometimes. But I'm looking at them thinking, wow, I want to be that. And
Mm,
then, further along, it happened again that I was thinking, well, like, maybe I don't want to be that person in front of me. I want to be the one who's actually doing the building, which is a little bit strange. Because when I took that first job that wasn't kind of a linear path from an investment bank, people are like, what are you doing? You can't go back. Like, you're really institutional. Why do you want to be deinstitutionalized, despite the fact
Love
that
that
that sounds
term.
kind of positive?
yeah, no, that's insane. I love it.
So
And I was like, "But I don't wanna go back, like, this was intentional, like,
well,
this is not a parachute jump."
I think once you've drank that Kool-Aid, right? And I grew up surrounded by serial entrepreneurs that truly have it like you, right? And it takes a while to find that stride for some folks to really understand what their calling or purpose is. But once you figure it out and you're about what you're creating, not necessarily what you're selling or the product itself, that has to be a thing. You have to like what it is. But I think it's the creating of something that wasn't there before. And especially if you're doing it with people and enriching the people around you in your business. That's the drive for most successful, any of the successful entrepreneurs I've known. The money and the business and what they're doing is just kind of like, wow, that comes with this neat thing I created over here, this company of mine and
It's so
ours.
secondary, right?
Yeah.
It's so secondary, and I'm sure you've had the same experience. Um, it's it's just not what you're looking for, right? Like
Yeah.
the first place that I went that was actually run by a true entrepreneur, and I went in there, there's a whole different decision-making process that I think those of us who were institutionalized, aren't very good at. Like you need at like 90%, 95% certainty. You need to be able to pitch someone. You have a deck, you have all your data, you have everything really clean and lined up before you make any type of a decision. I would go to the founder of this other company who was the true entrepreneur, and he would stop me halfway through my, spiel and say, "I said yes. What are you doing? You're talking
Yeah.
past yes.
You
Like,
have
are you
me.
idiot? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to start saying no because I'm
That's
tired of
so
listening to
funny.
you." I mean, he
Yeah.
was a little bit nicer than that, but it had a profound effect on me. I realized that in that organization, I was being empowered to make decisions on 80%, 70%
Wow.
certainty.
Mm,
And
mm,
sometimes I got to go with like 60, maybe even like your comfort level for how much information you have to make a decision has to be pretty high. You have to be pretty risk taking. And the only way you can do that then is if you realize you have to be awake to the fact that you may be making a mistake. And as more information comes in, you have to pivot again. And I
mm.
think that's where being institutionalized can stilt you.
It's funny that you just said that. It's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine today in the SFR industry, and we were just talking about a specific deal that took place. And he said to me, he believes that that deal took place because we were both struck by lightning at the right time, and I was ready to pitch whoever it was that came my way. I just happened to be ready. And I said to him that my favorite quote of all time is, "I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." And that
Yeah.
just simply says that you're ready at any given time. And as an entrepreneur, you actually have to be ready at any given time. Things can happen at 12:30 at night. Your technology can fail, you're asleep. You can get an international inquiry from an overseas investor wanting to invest something with you, and for as long as you don't respond and deal with that specific prospect or opportunity, it's going to slip. So I think coming from the corporate world, going to entrepreneurship. I mean, I left the corporate world when I was about 24, and launched my own 23 sorry launched my own startup. And it was a whole new world, because I realized, hold on, 100% of the responsibility is
Yeah.
actually on me.
Yeah. And that's both good and bad, right? It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's awesome.
That's the drug, right? For those of us that love that feeling, we're chasing that high of, and it's not control. That's the key too. I don't think, there's some entrepreneurial folks that are very controlling. That's not
Right.
necessarily a positive quality, right? There's the need to be influencing the process or be an influencer in what's happening, but not controlling everyone around you. The outcome is going to be what it is. Given your vision, but you're going to let others do it their way. And when that recipe comes together, and you've got a strong serial entrepreneurial, and they start hiring people and bringing people around them that want to feed off of that, man, it's magic. And most of those businesses, and people define success usually by money. I personally, I like money. It's a wonderful thing, but success has so many different variables. And when that's clicking, you've created something in this world, in this universe, whatever you want to call it, that's magic. And people are enjoying their life. They're going to work happy. It's that true saying, if you show up to a job you really love, it's not really a job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think the word that you use that like I would seize on is vision.
Yeah.
I think that's the differentiator. And you obviously have to have people around you doing stuff and lose control because you can't scale. Like you can have the best ideas in the world. If you can't scale it, to me, you're never going to be really successful. Right.
Yep.
And the only way to scale is if you can get people to buy into your vision. And it's that vision that's setting apart the things. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there with that word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I will curse in this quote. I have a hat that says, "You can't do epic shit with basic people," and
That is so
right, and it's so great, right?
borrow the hat.
Yeah, we'll send you one. It'll be our gift. I'll grab you one and send it to you. And
That needs to be my new hat.
it's a great hat, and I'm cautious when I say it too, because I don't want to degrade anyone that isn't,
Yeah,
the super.
you have to take it in a positive way, not a negative way.
Not everyone. It's like the NBA. I'm in Vegas right now for the March Madness with some friends, or we're watching sports, and you watch these athletes, and you say, "Oh man, I wish I could do that." Not everyone can do that. You're born with a gift, whether it's athletics, intellect, personality, whatever, charm, humor, and some people have that 1% and some don't, and it's okay because we all have our place. But when you have that special thing, and you are not a just basic person, you're something more than that, it really is a neat thing to connect with and to see it. And
Wow.
I've always enjoyed being a passenger in that too, because I enjoy what I bring to the table, and I think I elevate the folks around me if I can, and they enrich me as well. But I've been around some really stellar people, and including you, Beth, now in this conversation. It's like I get to check the box of knowing some human beings that are sparks in this universe that have changed it for people. And that is just the energy surrounding that.
Who doesn't want to do epic?
Right?
Like, I think it's
Epic-
just, I actually think it draws you to the hat,
Yes.
right?
100%. Epic is where it's at. That's what human beings live
That's
life
what I
for.
want to do.
I
I'm going to
know.
think, well, like the next 3 days, I'm going to work that into the conversation once a day. That's
Oh, I love it.
Love it. Love it. Driving value all freaking day. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, driving value just sounds a little too like corporate. I want to do epic.
Yeah, we're going to do epic. Let's break stuff. And my other one is I love to stay in the fight. You talked on this, Patrick, a little bit before, being in the right place, lightning strikes. I've always said this to my children, my family. You got to stay in the fight. Days are tough. There's things that aren't always going to be perfect, but always be in the fight. Always put yourself in a place to win. Not a zero-sum game, mind you. Not you win at everyone else's cost, but just always put yourself there. And I think if you have that mantra, that mindset, no matter what life throws at you, you're going to come out a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my kind of guiding principles too is really similar to that. Supposedly Louis Pasteur said this, although he said it in French, so I'm sure the translation is not perfect.
Please say it in French.
If he did say it, he said it in French, but the line is, chance favors the prepared mind. So like be open to the opportunity, but work your ass off so that you're ready for it when it gets there. It's not that you should just sit around hoping luck hits you in the face, but chance does favor the prepared mind. And I guess that's where I would tell people, just focus on what it is you're doing well, really work hard at it, and then just be awake to the opportunity, because it will kind of come if you're looking for it and you're ready for it.
I'll butcher this quote because I can't remember stuff very well, like the weird brain here, but it's a Gary Player quote. And he said something to the effect of, I'm way luckier in tournaments the more I've practiced before. So basically,
same idea.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Luck isn't a thing. It's if you practice and you fight and you work hard, you're going to perform better.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Hey, why do you think we have this problem, human beings? Why do you think us human beings need an entrepreneur to go start a business, fail 5 times, and then finally succeeds, and then come out, jump on a podcast, and then say, "This is how you do it. Work hard, be open to opportunities." Blah 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 blah. Why haven't we got that earlier?
Why
have we not received that earlier? Like as human beings.
So I think what you're saying.
I'm basically questioning the education system right now.
Well, yeah, we're not teaching people to understand the process that we go through by natural, the way we are by nature.
Correct.
I'm not sure everyone should be an entrepreneur, though.
Right.
I'm not saying that.
Like, I actually don't think it should be that higher percentage, or we won't be able to start any companies.
I agree. Economically, a country would fail if everyone's an entrepreneur. That makes total sense. What I'm saying, but that mindset can be applied to an entrepreneur as well as an employee. A very successful employee.
100%. Like you can be an amazing employee without taking all the risk and the stress and everything else, by being an innovator, by working hard, but being awake to what's going on around you. Like what I'm hopeful for is that employees are coming to me. I don't care. I mean, and I even say this to the most junior employees we have. Like, you're the one who's on the front line. You're the one who's using the system. I want to hear what's wrong with it. Don't tell me it's broken and not use it. Like, use it and help me fix it. But like, I want to hear those things. I want people to be their own innovator. And even if they're within, an underwriting role where they're not supposed to be outside the lines too far, right?
I think all the answers are already out there for all of us. It's whether you're tuned in to find them, whether we're present in our conversations. How many people, don't listen to hear; they listen to respond. They're not connected to the moment. To your point, Patrick, being present, being connected, as an entrepreneur, willing to take risks, take failure for what it is. Those are all concepts that everybody hears and knows, but it doesn't resonate with everyone. They don't take it to heart. And folks that are dialed up like we are, and the other people listening out there that are entrepreneurs, go, "Oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. Of course, I'm gonna fail, but I'm not I'm going to fail today, and tomorrow I'm going to make the same, adjust the decision, but I'm going to be willing to make the same decision with some adjustments and maybe fail again, but I'm never going to stop.
Yeah. And, look, one of the things I've had to learn, and I have to learn it more than once sometimes, is that not everybody around you wants to take that risk. And
Right.
not everybody around you is feeding off of the type of adrenaline that you feed off of. Sometimes you actually have to give people a calmer environment
Sure.
or something that they can actually, that's better suited to their personality.
That's
And
a great
you
point.
need that as well.
Mm.
There's a glorification sometimes of the entrepreneurship that I find kind of amusing, even though I'm squarely in it. I realize it's not everyone's thing.
It looks great 20 years down the road after the company was started,
100%.
when you've got all the
100%.
money and the business is solid, but they don't see that in between time. And it's a very lonely, scary road for anyone that's really been successful at it, because to both of your points, the buck stops with you, and there is no one to call. There is no email to forward to somebody and go, oh, they'll catch that for me. It is you. And
Yeah.
and if you're really good at heart too, your decisions you're making are not just for you or the business, it's the people you employ. You're thinking about the families of the folks that
100%
rely on
as the
you.
people. You realize it's the people that are really driving your satisfaction.
100%.
It's very interesting.
And also, as an entrepreneur, you're driving a ship that bears the financial responsibility
Yeah.
for all stakeholders involved.
For all those families, believe me,
Yeah,
that is not lost on me. That is not lost on me.
exactly. And there's times where I stop and I look around at the office and I look at the staff and I'm like, I just look at everyone and I look at the photos of their kids. I look at the stuff on that they put on their desks and I'm like, yes, let's go. Like that just pushes me. Let's go
And
and
they
get more
believe in
people and
you.
more accounts. I'm more than happy. I will carry every photo on my back. No problem.
We have 4 people in our organization that are having babies in May and June.
Oh,
Hey!
Sidebar. They're all like clustered. And to me, that's like the most important growth we have going on this year.
That is amazing. Future
It's like
CoreVest
we have this
employees
mini
coming
baby boom
soon.
going on.
boy, look at
So
how
I'm pretty excited. You guys were talking about March Madness, Philip, and I was thinking we're gonna have May Madness in our
right,
office.
baby
We need
madness.
like a grid. We need a grid for who's doing it when.
Look how excited you are though as you talk about that. You lean forward, your face lit up. Like that is something you can't fake. It's the authenticity, and that's a theme in all of our podcasts we talk about, is being authentic, showing up as your true self. And I'm sure the people that are going to listen to this that have worked with you or work with you now or worked for you in the past feel it every day. You show up clearly in a way that elevates the folks around you, and you care. It's not lip service. You really do care.
No, it is absolutely the truth. Absolutely the truth.
At the end of the day, that's why we do what we do, Phil. Think about it. The deals get done in between our relationships, but the relationship is the purpose and the motivation.
Everything.
You know what I mean? The deal gets done, the money comes, all that stuff. They're all byproducts of the relationship. The relationship is between client and service provider. It's between employee and employer. It's between neighbor and neighbor. It's between brother and sister. It just happens in between that, which drives productivity.
Epic. Mortgage companies are not inherently, like I said, I can't believe there's no costume, but there's no Halloween costume. There's hardly a following for these things. But we have our clients who are the borrowers. We have our clients who are the people who are funding us, or, if you securitize, your bondholders, and you have your there's all kinds of people in this ecosystem that are relying on you, and that are your constituents and your clients and your employees. And you have some employees who face one direction, another direction, but as the person on top, they're all really important to me. And I care about each of the constituents, right?
Because it's all part of the ecosystem, right? Everyone's got a role.
It's part of the ecosystem, yeah.
Everyone's got a role that keeps the wheel turning. So let's dive into CoreVest's actual product. So just so everyone knows, me personally right now, I'm a very premature real estate investor. I've got a handful of properties like in Australia, not here.
Yeah.
I've got one property here. And I'm personally looking, Phil, you and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago about I want to get into multifamily. I heard that Fannie Mae's got some cool products on investing. So what walk us through CoreVest and what CoreVest does. I'm personally going through my I'm learning phase, so I'm open to hearing.
Yeah. So the new company is actually Encore, but we are doing very similar things. So there was a need that I saw in the market for investors. There's the GSEs that can handle a handful of investor loans. About 10, depending if it's Fannie or Freddie.
What is GSE for folks that are listening that might not follow?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which
Okay.
are government-sponsored mortgage companies,
Okay.
can provide some financing, but not very much.
Okay.
And so as soon as somebody taps, and they're all personal loans, they're like consumer loans, right? But if you want to own a property as an investment and manage it like a business, there wasn't a good financing available to you. Being able to hold it in an LLC or having 5 to 10 of these homes or possibly several hundred of these homes, right? And so we saw a niche kind of between the residential and the commercial space where people could have business purpose loans, but they weren't consumer loans, but they were really for residential real estate. And
That's
it's,
great.
it's like a between the wall and the wallpaper type of business, although it's becoming much larger. I think it deserves to be its own asset class, like the way it is in the UK and in Australia, where, build to let is actually a normal part of the financing ecosystem. It had not been in the US.
What differentiates that from like a
And so
DSCR
it's really to
product?
focus on investors. But
Okay.
in a residential context or small multis, which are also kind of underserved.
Okay. Question. So let's talk a DSCR product. Wasn't that primarily for investors?
Yes, it is. It is.
How does this
We
separate
also
from
just do
that?
it in more pools of people who are managing larger groups of property, which is, but DSCR product was not a standard product, 10 years ago.
Really? Okay. Okay. All right. Fair
So
enough.
so here's my question in your world, right? Because everyone thinks of finance, it's simple. It's policy procedure. You're going to move down this, you're going to apply, you're going to have your background check, your credit checks, whatever, and then you're going to get approved or not approved. How do you innovate in your sector? What are the ways that you have found to differentiate yourself or your thinking so that
Other
you're
than
not?
just being charming,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's pretty good.
it helps though. I don't
You
care.
got us
Charming.
there.
That's Phil's
Let's give
strategy.
charming some points.
That's right. Wicked, smart, and charming. Those are my two things.
Yes. Look, everybody's money is the same color, green, right?
That's right.
But people will actually choose in this particular space because it's not as commoditized. People will choose based on your ability to close, your understanding of it. Can you actually make adjustments along the way when things come up, because they do. It's hard to explain that completely, but these are just not as bespoke as some of the more. These are more bespoke. They're not as commoditized as some
Sure.
of the products that you're talking about. And because we do it in larger pools of assets, and how people are running it, and they're generally fully leased, but things will come up. And how do you count the type of insurance that they have, or the type of is the business actually running? Like, are you
Sure.
underwriting the business as well as the assets? You're really doing both a commercial and a residential underwrite at the same time.
Mm.
And there are players that find it very difficult to close in a reasonable period of time because of the number of moving pieces, things like that.
Which holds up deals for the person trying to get finance. So does it create more of a bottle?
Yeah, and if you're one of the things that's most important to most of the people borrowing on the business purpose side is, how fast can I close? I mean, they don't need to close in 3 days. I mean, some people do. I don't necessarily need to finance them. But are they going to consistently do what they're going to say? Can they fund in a reasonable period of time?
Sure.
And are they going to be there for it? Because your certainty of close is more important sometimes to the investor. Something weird isn't going to come up at the last second.
Right. Get to the finish line and surprise, you're not funded.
Because also, I mean, it's not going to surprise you. Most of these people are entrepreneurial real estate investors, right?
Of course.
And they're not doing one asset. This is what their business is. And so they're looking for a partner. They're not looking for someone necessarily who's the cheaper at that moment in time for that one asset.
Well, for them,
They
it's
want to know
it's
over time they're going
scalability.
to be funded.
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
discussed
So,
early, scalability. Hey, Pat, you might want to lean forward a little bit. You're really muted again if you're away from your microphone.
okay. Cool. Is that better?
A lot better.
Cool.
Yeah.
So walk us through some of the products that Encore provides to the SFR industry.
What are some of the well, we do these mostly we do things in portfolio loans.
Okay.
So that it is technically a DSCR product. It's underwritten to a debt service coverage and
Okay.
to a certain loan to value, but it's one blanket mortgage on 50 assets at the same time.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
Or it's in the build to rent space, and we do lines of credit for people that are taking kind of 10 houses down at a time as they get off of their construction lines. And we can aggregate up to a certain number before they perm that out. So you can do shorter duration lines to those aggregators, which have been really popular.
So in regards to repaying those specific like construction loans, is it a quick refi that takes place upon completion or how does that work?
So yeah, they pay it off on completion as soon as they get the C of O.
Got it.
As soon as they get the C of O,
Yeah.
usually in tranches,
Yeah.
so that again, so that it's efficient for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't really
And
want to do it one house at a time.
no, that makes total sense. And how long have you been actively in the SFR space right now?
So 12 years, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I mean,
Really early. Well, I started with the fix and flip loans back when people really weren't doing them yet.
Yeah.
And then started to see the need from. I mean, really, the goal was, and I think it's been somewhat achieved, although I'm still tweaking it, is to be a life cycle lender, right? So you want to help people on the bridge side. You want to be able to do the perm financing. You want to really understand what their needs are. I mean, we were doing people who were buying scattered site homes during the financial crisis because that's what was available. And then we kind of backed up our financing with them when they started to be able to do they started doing build to rent just because they couldn't find scattered site homes. There weren't enough of them on the MLS anymore. There wasn't a discount. And it was so interesting because when I first got into the space, the whole thesis was, oh, I'm buying it below replacement value. I had to really kind of readjust my head to, if you're doing build to rent, it's replacement value, right? You're no longer trading at a discount, but there's such a need for homes in the US. Like then you start looking at the demographics and you think about where's the opportunity in the space. The opportunity is building homes because we're 1 million homes short. Or we don't have anything.
Some folks even think up to 3 million, right? Like the number is, it's huge, right? And that build to rent.
And the home builders are building $400,000 homes, which does not help this cohort at all. That's not where they're going.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not filling that need that's really there, which kind of ties into this, demonization of the landlord and the SFR industry, and it's all Wall Street bad money, and they're making.
It's interesting. It is interesting that it has such a bad rap. When my experience is, the people taking the bridge loans are actually making obsolete housing more habitable. Like that's a good thing. People are taking urban infill and turning it into something that people want to live in, and they're producing affordable housing.
They are.
And shouldn't that be the goal? Like most of what we finance is actually workforce housing, not large mansion flips in California or something.
If the SFR industry wasn't around, the market would be stuck with inflated apartments.
Yeah, I mean, look,
you know what I mean?
the
So
people
now,
who came in and started buying in the distress really put a floor to what was a falling knife.
yeah.
Yes.
And now all we're doing is giving people options at this point for other ways to have affordable housing. And I think there's been just such a shift in the way people think about renting versus owning anyway. Like, look, I have a daughter. I know, Philip, you were talking about your own kids. Like, she wouldn't buy a dress to go to a wedding when she could rent something that's going to look good and be what she needs and everything else. She doesn't have this need to own it. And I think that you're going to walk down a street. You don't have to know what's a rental home and what's a purchased home. What's important is
Absolutely no upside.
Like
Nobody
my parents would never, ever have leased a car. They thought you had to buy a car. You have no idea what car in the driveway is leased or owned.
If it doesn't pay you, rent it.
Right.
Simple.
It makes no sense.
If it doesn't,
So I think part of it is an evolution.
You know what I mean?
Part of it's going to be an evolution of where people want to live and how they want to allocate their funds, which is nothing to do with, big, bad, evil landlords.
Yeah.
And it's just being present for the evolution the thinking, the changes in thinking that are happening, and saying, hey, this ship has sailed, it's moving. Let's create opportunities to fill the gaps that are created by that change.
Yes.
Right. And, people having choice. I'm in the same boat. My oldest son bought a house. He was able to. My two middle boys are not going to buy a house anytime soon, and nor do they want to. And it wouldn't be the best use of their money right now, because one of them's into crypto. One of them's doing some stuff on TikTok and monetizing that. And when they talk to me about, well, I've got a little bit of money. Should I really start saving for a house? I'm kind of counseling them on no, because you're able to take that money and make a lot more money than that house is going to make you appreciating. And you don't mind renting. You don't have a family right now that you have to worry about. So
Right.
take this time to explore what you can do, putting your money to work versus that traditional value of planning it in a house.
But the good news is, if one of them did start a family and wanted
They
a
can still
house
rent.
to be in or be in a school system, they could rent
Yep.
it because that option is available to them. That's kind of the good news.
How interesting after COVID and all that's come out from that with education and some of the shortcomings in different areas for that the topic that we're talking about, having choice to be able to move your kids to an area where you like that schooling better, or you feel better about the demographic, whether it's politically or economically, to move around and have that freedom of choice versus being stuck. I felt that when I was younger with my boys. I was stuck in a neighborhood, stuck in an area that I didn't want to be because I couldn't sell the house. And that feeling was awful.
Yeah, no, this just gives people choices. It doesn't mean people who want to buy a house shouldn't buy a house. I think it's also a great option, but this gives people choices. And I think having more affordable choices is what we should be doing.
With your experience in finances, maybe this is not a great question, or hopefully it's not too broad, but are you of the school of thought that a home is really a liability, not an asset, because it's not cash flowing?
Oh, I don't know. I guess, I think about my own homes, and I bought my homes because that's where I want to live, or that's what I want out of it. And maybe there wasn't another option, but I definitely feel like you get wed to it, like you were saying, and that may not be the best thing for flexibility. I don't know. I don't know that I think of it as an asset or a liability, really. But I'm also probably a little more conservative than most people are in homes, as I don't carry a lot of debt on them.
Which is a great feeling if anyone can have it, and even if you, for in my situation, I've got quite a bit of equity in my home, but it's phantom money because I'm never going to sell this
Well, you
house.
can't use it.
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is,
you
I mean,
have to take it.
I guess if the rates ever went back down to 2.5%, I could refi and be smart with it. But for me, it's just, that's legacy money to give to my kids because I can never access it. And nor do I want to. I don't want to move. I enjoy where we're at. And I'm glad that we have that cushion.
Do you think we're ever going to see 2.5% ever again?
In my experience, no. But Beth, what do you think? Do you think we'll ever see rates back down in the 3%?
No way.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon. I mean, unfortunately, I've been one of the ones thinking rates were not going down much from here, and doesn't feel like they're moving down right this minute anyway.
Yeah.
And look, I think the important thing for rates, though, in this market is stability, which we don't quite have yet. I think the market can adjust to almost any rate environment if people thought that's what the environment was going to be. I think what's been happening, over the past couple of years is that things were just moving so fast and people were getting whipsawed, and it was the volatility more than the actual rates that I think were holding people back.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like you got stuck with a bad deal,
and 2 minutes later,
6%, 5%, 4%, whatever the number is. If that's what, it's like anything. If you're buying a car at market value and you're getting a deal and you need to buy a car, then that's the best deal you could do.
That's
Same
the
thing
deal,
with housing.
right?
This is the deal today. So if you want to or need to buy a home, this is the cost of buying that home. And once you've bought it, that's you're in the contract. That's the deal. You can't worry about it. And I guess that is the beauty of refinance, that if things do work in your favor and go down, you can refinance and benefit from that.
There is obviously, I'm sure you guys are aware, in the not the outside of the SFR industry, we've got people that go around and they provide seller financing on their properties, and there's creative methods of doing financing like subject twos and seller financing deals. Have you guys ever come across someone seller financing a deal at an extensively low interest rate, like a 2.5 or a 3% through a mass portfolio for like $50 or something like
Not
that?
really. The closest thing to that, sometimes people will sell to like the larger institutional investors and are able to get back like REIT stock or something like that that doesn't create the same type of you know, change right away.
Mm.
There are some structures you can take back, different types of units.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really the seller financing that you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you, Beth? How do you come across new? Who comes to you and says, "Hey, there's this innovative way of financing going on over here, or this group over here did this"? Is it word of mouth in your business where some folks are being
Yeah, look,
creative?
there's conferences and there's some associations and people definitely share information like that. But I find that the best innovation is borrower led. Like
Interesting.
people will come to you with what they need, and then you have to think, okay, from what I know is available in the market, what can I do to address this need? Because they wouldn't be coming to me if there was something
Sure.
that was off the shelf. But you
Mm-hmm.
can't get too far from the shelf, or you won't be able to back lever yourself with your warehouse lines or with other things. Like, can you take what you know about the market? Can you take what you know about finance and make the tweaks that are necessary that they get what they need, and you're still able to like feed it into the financial system?
It's not a full custom shop, but it's slightly custom. That way you
Yeah, I
can
mean, you
get
can't
backed
give
by the other.
people everything they want all the time, right? I
Right.
mean,
Mm. You can
it just
tailor it to
wouldn't
some
work.
extent.
Like we
So,
all want, no rules and and low coupon, right?
Yeah.
mhm.
I like the no rules part.
No
I
rules are
try to live my
great.
life like that.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
rules are definitely awesome.
But
So,
it did take us a while. I mean, look, we really did build this from scratch and tried to figure out like what would the rating agencies take, what would the warehouse lenders take, and we built something that was a decent number of rules. And then over time, we've been like scaling back the ones that don't matter. Can you figure out like how to get rid of like the rules that aren't really helping anybody
mm,
and see what we can do that is more client centric.
okay, I got a question that obviously is going to grab your career and your past, and I want to see how that's contributed to today. So, your time at Citigroup specifically and Goldman Sachs. I mean, they're two huge companies, international recognition. How did those two companies prepare you for entrepreneurship?
So I'll start with Goldman, because I think it had a huge impact on me. So I started in our New York office, and part of my job when I was there was going to Europe a lot. I spent a lot of time building out a brand new servicer for us in Paris when we were buying loans that nobody had really dealt with before in the European market, and was able to build out an organization to be alongside of our investment, but and I had all the tools available to me that like a global institution had, but we were the ones building it out and coming up with what we wanted to use. Then I wound up moving to Hong Kong where it was that on steroids.
Wow.
We started
How
buying
long
loans
ago
in
was the Hong Kong?
Thailand and
How long ago was the Hong
Korea.
Kong move?
Excuse me?
How long ago was the Hong Kong move?
So I moved to Hong Kong, like it was right after the handover and right before the Asian debt crisis.
Okay.
And so like, I mean, I was literally in Bangkok the day that the baht devalued and we all ran to like the designer shoe places and bought shoes at 40% off.
Wow.
But what was amazing about the time that I was in Hong Kong is that we were buying loans in these in countries that just there was no such thing as a loan servicer, right? There was no such thing as like there wasn't even a government debt market in a lot of these countries, and so we were building things by extrapolation. And I was holding job fairs and putting people in place. And this is actually a really good failure story that turned into a good story. We bought $1 billion for the bad loans in Bangkok and well, in Thailand, right? But we were building out the servicer in Bangkok. And so we thought, we were pretty smart. There was no loan servicers there. We did a joint venture with the GECC because they had financed mopeds. And that was the closest thing that we could find. So we had
Because
this
they're
joint,
everywhere.
right?
They're everywhere in Thailand.
little tuk-tuk, like it was really tuk-tuks, right? I don't
Oh
know if
my
you've been to
God.
get
I've been in an accident in a tuk-tuk. I've been in one
in
and
a
a car
tuk-tuk,
hit me.
right?
Swear to God. Swear to God.
So anyway, here we think we're like, two blue chip companies and we hold the job fair, we come up with a name, we get office space, we do all the things that I think everyone associates with building a startup company, right? We open our doors, and of course, it had gotten out into the market that the Americans had bought the bad real estate loans.
Yep.
And people started showing up, I kid you not, with bags of baht, which is the Thai
The Thai
currency.
currency, yeah.
Right. We had prepared for ACH and wires and everything that would have been perfect in the US mortgage market. And it never occurred to us that 100% of what we were going to see was going to be cash. And we did, so we had to
So
shut the
you weren't
company.
prepared for that happening. That's unbelievable.
It didn't occur to us that cash was going to start coming in the door in the first day. Or maybe we thought we had a little bit of cash. Maybe we had like a little cash drawer. But we had to shut the company down the day that we opened it. And then come back the next day with armed guards and brings trucks and what you would think of in a cash business. And it just goes to show you that you can't always anticipate. But the idea is you just make the pivot, you make the change. Like it wasn't all about, did we do the good job at the job fair in getting all these people in there? We didn't fundamentally have some of the right processes in place from the beginning. And the key is to pivot right away rather than let that become a disaster, right?
So and this is unbelievable to me. I just have a couple quick questions. So here you are in the U.S. working for Goldman, and then they send you over to Europe. Then they send you to Thailand. What was your experience? What were you doing that got their attention to say, you're our person to go over there? And by the way, this is a show and you're going to figure it out. Like what an incredible opportunity.
It was within
Yeah.
my group. I was in the real estate principal area where we were buying like on behalf of a fund. And so we had global operations, and my job in New York was you know, had global aspects to it. And I had been the European piece I was just going back and forth and doing. I moved to Asia after going there on for a project, and then the person who was there encouraged me to stay, and then my husband got transferred, and it just worked out well. That was definitely a chance favoring the prepared mind situation, moving to Asia. But in each location, what I didn't realize at the time is I was learning how to build mini companies or adjacent type of companies, or figuring out, in one case, like when we bought up the Thai loans, how to syndicate to a bunch of different investors, which really helped me in subsequent markets and subsequent jobs in being able to raise capital and understand different structures that would help bring in basically like a syndication, because that's what you're doing when you're raising capital for your whatever your venture is, right? But the learning how to set up all these companies without a lot of help in countries that and look, I was incredibly fortunate. You're doing this within an organization that has a tremendous amount of support.
Sure, a lot of resources,
It's
right?
it's not that you don't have resources you can reach out to, but you are starting from whole cloth,
How
right? And
how
so
how difficult was, I mean, just doing business is difficult, right? Here in the US, for me, even just transacting deals and trying to get folks to buy into what we're doing. Now doing it in another country, and language barrier and philosophy, like all of those added pluses of challenge. I mean, how did you process and manage the stress of that personally? Like more of a personal
yeah,
question.
I know. It's interesting. I didn't find it that stressful.
Really?
The language barrier wasn't that great. People tend to speak English, particularly in these environments.
Gotcha.
Um, and luckily, I was the one investing the money, which is usually the good spot to be in those places.
Yeah.
People
Having
are
that
happy to see
responsibility,
you.
of
It's
course.
not you
They're going to
get
pivot
kind of
around you, not
whacked.
vice versa.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's as difficult
Mm,
as the client business in some ways. Although I still view myself as the one who's investing the money, because I view myself as a steward of the capital
of
that we're
course.
investing in these
Of
loans,
course.
It's a
Well,
right?
it's
great
your
way of looking at it.
responsibility at the end of the day. Have you adopted any of those specific traits or cultural values or anything of those major
I
corporations?
always take my shoes off when I walk in the house. I do not understand how people don't do that. Like, that
Okay.
one makes sense to me.
There you
And you
go.
didn't do it
That right
before?
there. Like, I mean, I'm barefoot right now, actually.
Oh
There
my
you go.
gosh, that's
There
amazing.
you go. There you go. Okay. What about cultural values of Goldman or Citi? Have you deployed any of those in any of your
Yeah,
startups
like, I
later on?
mean, one of the things that was so amazing about Goldman is just what a meritocracy the place is. And, we were talking earlier a little bit about how one of the things that's important to me with employees is making sure they have a voice. And no
Mhm.
matter how junior, no matter what their role is. And I think that did actually probably come from a lot from the Goldman culture where everyone is considered really an important member of the team. It's not really relevant how senior or junior you are. Your role is really equally important. And I think they're hiring for that. Like the bench strength there is incredibly deep
That's
because they give
amazing.
him a voice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think they really like and this is just me being transparent, right? Because there's a fine line because companies advertising that they give their employees a voice and they want their employees heard, but the truth and the fact is that C-level just call the shots and just get rid of everyone's perspective, but they advertise that they listen to everyone's perspective. And that's
If
true.
that
It
is
happens.
true, I'm sure that's true certain places. If
Yeah.
it is true, then they are missing their best feedback leap that they have.
Yeah. Oh, couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, although there is a line you have to be careful of, right? Like I've always been one to speak my mind. I'm incredibly open and transparent. And if like one of my bosses came to me and said, "I think we should do X," and I disagreed, I would absolutely go to the table, go to the mat, like say, "This is why I think it's not the right answer."
Hmm.
But the flip side of that is once they come around and they say, "No, this is the decision," it's your job to toe the line and move in that direction,
Yeah.
which is very hard, which is very hard. I mean, one of the things too that was very impactful on me as a leader from the Goldman experience was I was there during the IPO, and there was one
Wow.
very senior partner that I was close to that was not in favor of it. He was one of the few that voted against it. But the minute that the partnership voted for the IPO, he took it as his, it was his mission to make sure that it was as successful as possible.
That's
And
cool.
really was one of the change agents. And so yes, you want to give people a voice. Yes, you want to actually use your own voice. But yes, you have to do what the company needs. And that they may not all line up perfectly, but that
Mm,
doesn't mean you can't do all of them.
that's true.
That's
That's
such a powerful lesson too in our even in our small businesses that as a group you're trying to make these decisions and ultimately someone's going to make that decision, right? If it's just an entrepreneur asking the team, hey, here's what I'm thinking, what do you guys think, and he ends up or she ends up doing something different, you then get behind that decision because and it's not a chain of command thing because you can still outthink that opportunity, but it's just saying, okay, we've fought our fight, we've put our information forward, a decision's been made, now let's go make that the best possible outcome for that decision.
Right. And it's not giving up necessarily. You
No,
can still like be giving information, but if we don't all row in the same direction, the boat doesn't go anywhere.
that's it.
100%. Everyone needs to be rowing.
Right. When you think about the oarsmen, you
Yep.
gotta row in the same direction.
Yeah.
And or you can't have people off to the left and off to the right.
The thing is, when you walk into a culture and you open up the microphone to everyone at any given time, you're giving respect to everyone. And at the same time, as an entrepreneur, you're actually going to get further because you're going to get more creativity that way, right? Yesterday, I had
I feed on it. I really do feed on the feedback.
oh yeah,
Just
they're on the front
love it.
line.
But
They're on
it
the
doesn't
front
mean I
line.
take it one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to, just because it's somebody you respect giving you their opinion, that doesn't mean it's going to shape your decision. It's just feedback. It's
Exactly.
good info,
Yep.
but you're going to move forward with what you think is the best way, given all of that data, right?
It's
Yeah. And I go
basically
back to
having.
like something we said earlier in the conversation. You have to be able to act on a reasonably low percentage of perfect information. And so getting all the information really helps you, and maybe that person is right. So be awake that you can pivot, but you got to make clear decisions
Mhm.
with vision and move forward. If you're, if you're just kind of pansy-assing around, like, you're just not going to move forward. You can't just be so indecisive that you're
No.
continuing to just plain take information in.
Yeah,
No.
analysis paralysis, right, kills
Yeah.
any organization.
Yeah.
And
Perfection is the enemy of execution.
I have seen that so many times. I've worked for some very large companies, and the move, I forget the quote, move fast, move slow, whatever that is. Sometimes moving fast is the right way to do it, but thoughtfully, and then evaluating and pivoting. That's what I think entrepreneurs do really well. They may have to make decisions quickly based on what they have, but as soon as they've got the next opportunity to evaluate that decision, they pivot if it's not the right
You're
decision.
continuing to evaluate. You don't
That's
even
it.
realize it. I think it's just natural for a true entrepreneur. They're never
Yeah.
not evaluating their decisions. But they are moving forward decisively. I think people think in my organization that when I say something that I've made I am very clear with the decision and that somehow I'm super decisive. They have no idea what's going on inside this head every 5 seconds. Like
Yeah.
should I pivot to the inch this way or that way? But I'm keeping it to myself because people
Yeah.
need the vision.
No, that makes total sense. Like if you were to buy a car, you want to get every view and every angle of the car. You want to go and zoom into the tires. You want to walk around. You want to open the doors, and that's like employees, right? They've got a different view towards a
Yes.
decision point. Everyone has a different view. So collecting that data helps you make the best decision because you get the best from all angles, right? So yeah, I know. I love that. I really appreciate your perspective on that, Beth. That's great. So I've got a list of questions here that I'd like to knock out. I know we've been having a great time on this podcast, but at the same time, I'd like to cover some of these questions. So now let's go into the personal side of Beth. If it wasn't finance, what career would you have chosen and why?
I'm a huge cook. And I have like a big garden and stuff. So like I'm very interested in kind of mixing interesting palettes and stuff. I would probably do something like that. I don't know. I had a good friend whose mom came up from someplace down south, and I was giving her some pickles, and she just looked at me. She was like, "I didn't know northern girls could pickle." This northern girl likes to pickle.
Where is home for you, by the way? I don't know that I heard
New
that.
York.
So you're
Which is
in New
not a lot
York.
of pickles.
Okay.
Like New York City, like upstate, whereabouts?
New York City. New York City.
Wow. So you're in the city right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
I was a stockbroker at the age of 19, and it was always my dream to be a stockbroker in New York on Wall Street. I never made it, and now it's probably extensively regulated, so it's probably not as exciting as it would have been.
The Wild West back in the days.
Yeah.
What is so let's talk about the cooking side for a second. And this might be too broad of a question, but what's your top 3 or a couple restaurants that are your go-to that if I was coming to New York tomorrow, you would say you've got to go here?
You got to ask my kids because, man, they go to some great restaurants downtown, and I don't get as downtown as I should for what's like really good. Do you have a food preference you like? I'll give you something.
Italian.
Yeah.
Okay,
Italian.
so I love Uptown Casa Weaver. It's in Lever House, and it's like kind of really cool vibe, mid-century kind of architecture, and exceptional Italian.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
Okay. There you go.
So I would definitely go there for Italian.
So New York having all of those choices. I've only been to New York once. My wife has lived in New York and did the whole experience there for like 3 or 4 years. And when I was there, I was overwhelmed. Obviously, I was only there for a week, so talk about New York in a week. But I was overwhelmed by all of the options. In Phoenix, we have some great food choices. We're a foodie kind of area, but it's limited. New York, I feel like absolutely everything is there at your disposal.
Yeah, but the good news of that is so you can really rock the high end and it will blow your mind, right? It can be like really, really perfect or interesting food. But there's so many amazing kind of lower cost options too, just because the whole world is there. You can really, you can go and do a really expensive Japanese omakase with, 2 Michelin stars. And I'm not saying it's not good. I am, very much a fan of that. But you can go and find a really good sushi place nearby and it's delicious because they're catering to whatever their community is. And that's the kind of the key to New York is to manage your high low in a good way.
Yeah.
New York for me is one of the greatest cities in America. I never want to live there because I've found out that living in a city takes away the experience and the excitement. That's for me personally, and I want to keep that as a city that I just use as a destination city. One of my buddies actually competes in the 4th of July contest, the hot dogs contest.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I always
those are amazing. You watch people shove those things in,
Yeah,
they're dipping them in that water, and oh my God, it looks so awful. But and it's usually a tiny little person. It's not somebody like us that we look robust and I can take down these hot dogs. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. He his name's Jay Webby. He's actually going to be the godfather of my son.
Wow.
So he came 3rd last year. We always go to Coney Island that week and we have a blast in New York City. We love it. I go to Central Park. I literally feed all the turtles. I feed the ducks. I just get some bread from the hot dog guys. New York for me is such an experience. It's just, it doesn't stop at any street you turn into a whole new experience. Any street, from food to entertainment to culture, it's just one of the greatest cities in America. I absolutely love it. So yeah, New York's definitely. But next time we're in town, we're going to catch you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beth,
Let me
sure.
know. We'll find something fun to do.
Are you coming to any industry conferences soon?
Any which conferences?
Any industry conferences?
So I'm going to be at the National Home Rental one
or in Orlando coming up.
The one in Orlando coming out.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, Phil and I had a call about that today. We're actually putting together an event, so we'll definitely keep you posted on attending that event as well.
Yeah, let me know.
Cool. All right. Well, we've hit our 1 hour mark. Phil, do you have any questions?
No, Beth. This has been wonderful.
So glad to meet you guys like this. It was so serendipitous.
It's very cool. And one of the things I love is, again, authenticity, and you're showing who you are. Like, I hope people that are watching this will say when they see you at the NRHC or another event, hey, I'm going to walk up and talk to you about, you wanted to be a cook. I mean, you've got this amazing resume, but I'm a cook. And it's just a way for people to see you other than what your badge of courage or your honor is. You're a real person with stories that are outside of your work world, but what a neat thing to connect over. And so thank you for taking the time to be with us. It was truly special for me.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
You bet. Well, thank you guys for listening. Between Two Hats podcast, and we'll catch you on the next episode.